Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar about edge computing and how to use it for your industrial IoT application. I'm here today with my colleague Jan Hille, and my name is Jos from Viltech. Having a look at the agenda. Very important, you can ask questions at any time during the 30 minutes that we talk about edge computing, and after that we'll answer your questions for 15 minutes. So please use the chat function and also the question and answer function within this tool to ask you questions during the web event. Regarding the agenda, first we talk about general industrial edge computing, what kind of relevance it has, and also the potentials. Then we have a look at the challenges that you might face. Then we talk about the cloud integration and third-party services that are very important to get the full potential out of edge computing. And then at the end, we also look into the flexible and scalable edge infrastructure, so what you need to consider while doing larger scale rollouts, and also what kind of implications that has for your business. A few facts about Viltech, if you do not know us yet. We are a German-based company near the city of Münster, which is close to the border of Netherlands. And we are in the beautiful city of La. The company is founded in 1969, so a little bit above 50 years ago, so since a long time. And we're working in different verticals. This includes the energy, including distribution and transmission grid companies, but also with machine builders or in the smart city and smart farming area, where we also work with e-charging, but also large farming machines. Our main focus is always network communication, including wireless, with a strong focus of local computing, which means edge computing, and always having cybersecurity, cloud integration, and the rollout management of large-scale fleets in mind. What is edge computing? So edge computing is there for quite a long time. Any industrial computer or PLC next to your machine or RTU in a secondary substation is some kind of edge computing. But if you are really talking about edge computing, so computing at the edge, it also has an implication that you integrate your computing with the cloud. So it's a software system with many distributed computers, but also central cloud systems, and where you can seamlessly distribute the workloads and tasks throughout the whole network. So if we are looking at edge computing, we always have some kind of data generation from the sensors, PLCs, RTUs, that's machine or secondary substation. And this data is then through an edge device computed, converted, and sent to the cloud. If we are looking at a little further, also data from the cloud is going through the edge device to the machine PLC to optimize applications. And with edge computing, there's one huge advantage. You can deploy applications from the cloud, so you can have a continuous improvement of your applications. I'll go into that later. So edge computing, as mentioned before, is relevant for many different applications. This includes, for example, machine manufacturing and production sites where you have machines connected to an edge computer or edge gateway, and you can pre-process data that is generated by those machines. You can take local decisions and convert this data into a cloud-native protocol and send it to the cloud. In addition to that, you can update your applications from the cloud, add applications, so have some kind of continuous software enhanced improvements. But you can also use it in public transportation, including buses, trains, and trams, or even in e-charging, where you connect edge computing devices to, for example, in a bus, to people counting sensors at the doors, pre-convert the data, combine it, for example, with validator data for ticketing, and send it to the cloud, and also send additional programs and optimizations from the cloud back to the device. In addition to that, there's the energy sector, with probably the biggest short-term potential for edge computing. Many secondary substations are renewed and have to be updated. And what's very important there is that you have a system and the infrastructure that is growing with the requirements you have. Most installations at the moment are pretty static, so you have one device for one application. With edge computing, you can make these upgrades not as hardware installation, but just as a software update. And this will allow you to update thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands secondary substations in your network with just a few clicks from the cloud. Looking at the advantages of edge computing, so one of the most important things, and I mentioned that before, is you can shorten your innovation cycles, which means that you do not have to install new hardware for every improvement. So you can just update the software over time. If you have new requirements, if you have new use cases, you can just deploy those software on existing infrastructure, which will give you a competitive advantage in terms of innovation and also speed. So what you do is you reduce the time to market for your new business models, for customer advantages, and become more competitive. In addition to that, if you compare edge computing with traditional cloud computing, you can also have other applications because you have lower latencies, you have lower cost of bandwidth and cloud storage. So you can have other applications at the edge and use it for cloud to edge integration. For some companies, it's still very important that sensitive data remains inside of the corporate environment. This is, for example, with personal related data, but it can also be data that you do not want to bring to cloud environments that probably do not, that are not owned by yourself. So you just send some kind of reduced data or packed data to the cloud. And you can also do it without a reliable internet connection. So if you, for example, have a cellular network where you do not have full speed all the time, you can also do the local processing, and if speed is there, you can send the data to the cloud. With edge computing, you have a lot of advantages, but there are also a lot of challenges that you will face implementing your use cases. So the first thing is the use case itself. Most of the time, they're not clear yet, or a single use case is not worth the effort of installing and setting up a full edge to cloud integration. So what you need to do is you need to have use cases and future use cases in mind when setting up your structure, and define them and understand the potential. As mentioned before, the advantage of edge computing is you can easily add new use cases through software. So it's software defined, and we don't have to roll out hardware, which reduces your time to market at any point. Anyway, we have to roll out hardware once. At the beginning, we need to have a computing platform that allows you to have enough resources for your existing use cases, but also for potential new use cases. So you need to scale the right hardware. You need to understand if you want to do full data processing at the edge or just pre-processing. And what you also need to check is if the hardware is long-term available, so that you can also have the same devices in your machines and production plants over time. As mentioned, there is no edge computing without cloud. So you always have a cloud integration with edge computing, either private or public cloud. So you have a central server which is doing some additional computing. So choosing the right cloud is essential in terms of cost, functionality, and scalability. And you need to also understand what kind of applications are already there that you can just purchase, for example, from App Store within the cloud. And then you have the scaling. So you need to understand if you have a growing number of devices that are probably not the same. So you face the situation that you need to upgrade, maintain, and manage those devices in the field also over time or for many years. So you have to build infrastructure that is manageable, easily upgradable, and easy to deploy. So if you're looking at edge computing, we have 3 different types of scenarios. The first one is pretty easy. You get data that you gather from the machine or PLC, for example, through Modbus or Profinet or Profibus. Send it to the edge device, or the edge device is pulling the data, is converting it to a cloud protocol, and just send it to the cloud. So all the data that is collected by the edge device is sent to the cloud. In addition to that, what we can do with the edge devices, we can do some pre-processing of the data. So we are collecting the data from the machines, from the PLCs, and we compute. There is the advantage that we can take larger amounts of data and compute those data, so adding or taking some average of values and just send the sense of those data to the cloud. So you have less bandwidth and can send more information to the cloud with the same overhead. In addition to that, and this is real edge computing, is that we deploy new applications and new data models and data from the cloud to the edge device, that we do send new applications, new pre-processing algorithms to the edge device over time, that we optimize them in the cloud, learn from other machines, and update them again and again. And then have also the sense of those data and send it to the PLC machines. What's very important, usually in most applications, you start with example 1. You will soon migrate to example 2, and then understanding the value and possibilities, will come to example 3, and you will just migrate new applications to the edge devices. And you can do also some kind of try and error. So if something is working well, you can continue doing that. But if something is not working well, some applications, some pre-processing, you can just replace it with other ones. Oh, sorry. So what is the difference between edge computer and industrial computer? Because at the end, it's pretty much the same, at least from the hardware perspective. So we have a platform where you usually run a Linux operating system or Windows operating system, and this is industrial computer. We have interfaces like Ethernet. We can add also 4G LTE. We can connect local displays or even legacy devices over serial or digital inputs and outputs. With edge computer, we do pretty much the same, except that we add a containerized computing environment. I'll come to that later and explain later. On top, and with containerized applications, I have a native cloud integration. So I can just deploy applications from the cloud, make it very easy to exchange data, and have some kind of distributed computing between the cloud and many edge devices. Looking at Microsoft Azure, for example, as one of the clouds that we support. So besides the cloud, with Edge, you can have additional computing power in the cloud that cannot be done in the Edge. Also, if you have a lot of devices in the field, you have combined computing. So if you want to have some information from 10 machines at the same time and compute it. You can have some kind of very easy deployment of applications through a central management, so rollout of applications, which is done by the cloud. And then the most important one, you have different services in the cloud that are supporting your industrial IoT application. If you don't have them, it's very difficult to build it, and you will have a lot of problems to face. So in the Azure cloud and also in other clouds, there is usually IoT hub, which is mainly this central data collector. So where you send your data, convert your data, and send it from there to other applications and business intelligence. Then there's IoT Edge, which is doing the provisioning of cloud workloads. So deploying applications and decide where you want to compute those applications. And in addition to that, there is the device provisioning service. So if you roll out a lot of applications, you need to have some kind of cloud onboarding. So you need to have some secure device provisioning and rollout, which can work with the DPS. So it helps you to take ownership of the devices, send them, if they register, send them to your IoT hub, and send your applications to those devices. So it's very good for large-scale rollouts. As mentioned before, talking a little bit about container for those of you who don't know it yet. Container are some kind of apps, or also called microservices. So what you do is you take applications and put those applications into smaller containers that you can maintain and manage separately. It is a little bit similar to virtualization. So where you take an application and visualize it, but it scales much better, has less overhead. And it's a very good technology that is also used already at scale. So most modern applications for cloud computing, but also for edge computing, are done using containers. So as mentioned before, you have the isolation, which is similar to virtualization. So if one microservice, one container fails, it does not affect the others. Then you have another advantage, which is that you can use it very easily together with a cloud system. So container are easy to deploy from central systems, which gives you a lot of advantages when you want to have larger rollouts. And they have a very small footprint, so you can have much less computing power to run isolated applications, to run more applications, so you don't have much overhead from the operating system. Or if you use virtualization instead, operating systems, because you need to have overhead for each Windows or Linux that you are running there. Now coming to the Viltech Edge Gateways and how you can use them and what they do for you. So on the right side, you see two edge gateways. We have the EG500, which is a very small one for DIN-Ray mount, and the EG600, which is a little bit larger, but still very compact. They are prepared for seamless integration in Azure Cloud and other cloud systems. They are very flexible at the edge. They are made and built for containerized applications. So all the advantages that you can do based on containers can be used with them. So if your applications are running on containers or you are planning to run them on containers, this is the right choice for you. I talked about the DPS from Microsoft. DPS can also be used together with hardware encryption. So we have a trusted platform module, which is some kind of hardware security and authentication chip, which allows you to use the device provisioning service and take ownership of those devices based on hardware, which is extremely secure and gives your device a unique identity. In addition to that, we have the EG600, which can be used with 4G LTE, and also the EG500, which can, beside 4G LTE, also support 5G networks. Within the base operating system, we have an integrated firewall and have very high security standards so that your application and assets are protected. Looking at the setup that you usually have, you have things. So from IoT or industrial IoT, which is the sensor itself, which is a physical asset. And what you do is you take the edge computer, gather those information and data from the different things, and create some kind of digital twin of all the information that you have of the physical world, and integrate it with the cloud and pre-process data. So you have always the integration from cloud to edge and then connection to the things. So it allows you to have a combination from IT systems with OT systems. The Viltech edge gateways consist of three different parts. We have the hardware, which is Intel Atom-based hardware with 8 GB of RAM. And for your applications and data storage, we have 45 GB free for you. And a lot of different connections like USB, serial, 5G, and iOS. And it can be mounted on DIN rail. So there's a hardware platform where the operating system, which is a hardened Linux system, is running on. The hardened Linux system supports a container runtime and brings a lot of functions in terms of firewall, VPN, TPM, and interface management with it. And in addition to that, we have the edge runtime, which gives you a cloud integration possibility. So on top of the operating system, there's the edge runtime, which allows the deployment of containers, the connection to Azure. It allows the device provisioning with the TPM and is always related to the cloud. So there's one for Azure, which is called IoT Edge or IoT Edge Runtime. And there's one for Amazon, which is called Amazon AWS Greengrass. So Jan, at this point, I hand over to you that can describe a little bit the setup and how it works together.
Yes, thank you very much, Jules, and hello from my side also. So let's have a short technical look onto this infrastructure solution. You place this edge gateway in your application, for example, in your machine, by just placing it into the cabinet. It's a DIN rail mount device. And then you connect all your assets to our edge gateway using the interfaces which Jules just described. Jules also described about the operating system and the hardware platform. So we have our operating system ready, and we have this edge runtime on the device, which then connects to the cloud system you choose. And from there, you can then pull your application or provision your application onto the device as a Docker container. What you can, of course, also do, not only connect to a cloud system, you can also provide data to a local network, for example. If you have some kind of a SCADA system which you want to provide with some data from the edge, you can, of course, connect the device to the local data network and to the cloud at one time. So also, if some kind of container registry which is in your network can be called by the edge gateway, it's absolutely no problem to also get that. When it comes to the management of the system, we can provide some management functionality using our Viltech Smart EMS, which provides you with a central management of distributed Viltech devices with regards to firmware updates over the air and also configuration. So we have a central management system where you can define the functionality of your device, and the use case and the application comes from the cloud. So we will also integrate the Smart EMS to the big cloud system to provide you with one central system. This as a short call with regards to the technical points, and now back to you.
Thank you very much, Jan. So now we are at the last slide already, and just summarize everything. Please feel free to ask questions if you have any. We'll just answer them after this slide. Please use the comment section or the question and answer section for questions. So what we have learned today and others understood, that with the Viltech solution, you have a powerful hardware platform that allows you very modern and future-proof operating of your deployment of containerized applications for edge computing. That we have the perfect solution for very easy cloud integration. We always hear from our customers that this brings a lot of advantages to them because it works seamless. So you can get it to run within a few minutes. You have a lot of flexibility with the data processing. You can decide if you want to process in the cloud or at the edge and change it back and forth. And with the Viltech management solutions, you can bring also this application at scale. So many applications with edge computing fail because they're not able to run them on a large scale. And with our solutions, we implemented this and make it very simple and easy to run hundreds and thousands of devices. Okay, perfect. Jan, would be great if you guide us through the questions and answers. I hope there are many.
Yes, we have quite a few questions. First question from George. How can I access the edge gateway to configure it? I think this is with regards to, can I connect a display to the device, or what are the possibilities to connect and configure it?
Yeah, perfect. What you can do is you have the possibility to connect to the device over SSH, so that you have a console connection, so headless configuration, but you can also connect the display and connect to the device. In addition to that, if you have it provisioned once, you also have the possibility to connect over the cloud and do the configuration over a central system, which is the Viltech Smart EMS, which is the element management system for large-scale deployments.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question from Alexander with regards to 5G. Which 5G standards are supported by the Edge Gateway?
So until now, we support sub 6 GHz standards, which includes which is downward compatible to LTE. So we support all the higher speed LTE standards. But also then, in addition to that, the 2.1 gigahertz 5G, for example, or the 3.5 or 3.7 gigahertz 5G. So mainly all the standards that are in rollout at the moment. What we do not support are the pure IoT standards like NB-IoT or CAT-M2. So more on the higher speed and data hungry standards.
Right. Another question with regards to the cellular connection. Sergey wants to know if he can operate the edge gateway also within a private cellular network.
Yes, that's no problem. So we can support private APN and public APN. The only issue that you might have there is that the cloud integration becomes more difficult because you need to have some kind of internet breakout, or you need to build it on your central site to connect to Azure or AWS cloud. But this is not a limitation of the gateway, it's a limitation of the whole setup that you need to configure on the central side.
Another question with regards to the storage on the device. John wants to know if he can get more than 45 gigabyte storage on the device.
In general, yes. But at the moment, we just support the 45 gigabyte. The reason behind is we have 64 gigabyte SSD inside. And for all use cases that we do at the moment, it's sufficient. Anyway, installing a larger SSD is just a minor hardware modification, so we can support up to 1 terabyte inside. But it would require also software modifications and partitioning. So if you have a project where it's required, just come to us and we discuss how to implement it.
All right. A question from Thomas. He asks if there are outdoor solutions for these devices. I think this is with regards to temperature or protecting against humidity and things like that.
So the EG600, for example, can support -20 to +70 degrees, which is usually good for many outdoor setups. In addition to that, we can of course build the device into a plastic cabinet, for example. We also do modifications for larger scale deployments where we designed IP67 case with M12 connectors, but this is only available on projects.
Then a question from Stefanos. Can I run my own scripts directly on the device?
No, but Jan, would you like to answer the question how to do it, for example, inside of a container?
Yes, for sure. Thank you. Well, as Jos already said, running scripts directly on the device is not possible. This is because we have this hardened operating system. We offer you a command line interface, which has its own syntax, and we do not support, for example, native Python scripting on the device itself. But the concept of containerization allows practically every script to be easily converted into a small container application. And this is, in fact, also the idea behind this whole construct, to give you the chance to not run the scripts directly locally on the device, but to provision it from a cloud side inside a container and to handle it from this side. So when it comes to simple scripts like Bash scripts or Python scripts, they are very easily converted into containerized applications. Your developers will know how to do that. And this allows you to run practically every software or every script on the device then again. Okay, we have a question from Ruben. He wants to know if the Edge Gateway 500 does also provide a serial interface.
The EG500 also supports and provides a serial interface. There's one serial port at the bottom, which can be either RS-232 or 485, so which is software configurable. And with that interface, you can connect legacy devices and for example, pull some kind of Modbus data or even have a transparent connection.
Okay, then another question also with regards to connectivity from Lupesh. He wants to know what possibilities are there to attach external devices. He saw that there are RJ45 interfaces, and we also already talked about the serial interfaces, but he wants to know if a connection to field bus systems is supported directly from the device.
It's not supported directly, except your field bus is standard RS-232 or RS-45. Anyway, with the EG600, we are capable of supporting field buses on a hardware scale. We do that already in projects. It depends a little bit on the special requirements, and we need to do some kind of software modifications. So if you have larger requirements, there is no problem doing that. In addition to that, we can of course also use external converters and pre-process the data with external converters. If you have a lot of different field bus requirements, if you have one field bus requirement that you need to roll out at scale, we can just directly support it and implement it.
Okay, thank you. Then another question from Maria. How many Docker containers can I run on the device?
It depends on the resources. In general, unlimited. It depends how large a Docker container is. I would guess hundreds or thousands. Jan, do you have more information about this?
Well,
did we try it?
Yes, this question is in fact very, very difficult to answer because this highly depends on the resources the applications need. As Jos already said, there are in general no restrictions. We do not limit the number of containers which can be placed on the device, but from a certain point, the device's resources will become will not have enough resources to run all the containers at the same time. The device might get slow. So we have already seen placement of several containers, high two-digit number of containers on the device. If they are small scripts which do not need so much resources, it's in general no problem. But if you have some kind of pre-processing using AI or something like that on a device, then you might run into the situation that the local resources, you are getting low on local resources, and you might be able to only run a few containers, 5 or 10 containers or something like that. So this has to be evaluated with your use case and the applications you really need, in fact.
Maybe in addition to that, we can also provide faster hardware. So if you think that you don't have enough resources, we have also server-grade solutions with Xeon processing power that we also use with containerized applications already in the field.
Okay, then another question from Lisa. I think you might have already answered that, but maybe again to make it clear, she wants to know if she can take this edge gateway into operation without any display on the device and also keyboard or something like that, so kind of headless.
Yes, there is two possibilities for the initial deployment. One is over a serial console cable and then a command line interface, or over Ethernet SSH and then over a command line interface. So you just set up with a few commands, and as soon as the device is connecting to the internet, you can also connect it to configuration server, and then you can have everything from a central web UI that is running on a secure server and configure it.
All right, thank you. Then we have only one question left, which is from Reinhard. He wants to know if he can test the device and also get more information about the central management system.
Yes. So usually what we do is we have starter packages. Starter packages means that you can purchase a starter package, which includes 2 devices, which also includes a server for the central management. So everything that you need to start using your applications and run your applications. In addition to that, if you have a project behind, you can also talk about test scenarios, what you need. And within this, you'll learn more. If you're interested in our central management, there are also other webinars that we had a few weeks ago. There are recordings available. Just contact us. We can send it to you. In case you have additional and further questions, you can also have a one-on-one session where we explain all your questions and requirements.
Okay, thank you, Jos. Yeah, as I said before, this was already the last question. So thank you very much. And then back to you for the last words.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you for all those many questions. We'll end now. And if you have colleagues who want to join, we have the same webinar tomorrow. So in case you have colleagues that could not join today, there's another session tomorrow, mainly for the North American and South American market at a later time. So please feel free to share those information and invitation. You'll find everything on our webpage. Thanks a lot and see you soon. Bye-bye.